All right, at this point, it's time to start putting in our vertical pieces into these boxes. And this is a part where we're actually going to pre-assemble these boxes and put them up into place. And this is where that 1/2 degree offset is absolutely crucial. It'll make this go so much easier for you. The first time I did a coffered ceiling this style, I tried to do it making all of my cuts square, and it was a disaster. Shoulders were burning, sweat pouring off. Trying to get these pre-assembled boxes to fit was a nightmare, but the way I'm gonna show you how to do it will make your life so much easier, and you'll get a really cool looking coffered ceiling out of this. As you can see, I've already got about half of these boxes installed. You'll notice the 1x6 going around the perimeter there, and then it's got a dropped reveal 3/8 of an inch. I like to do either 1/4 inch or 3/8, and we've got these 3 boxes and the center box remaining. So this is what we've got here. This is my little assembly table here, and to pre-assemble we are gluing, then I just pop a couple nails in it to tack it in place, and then use a 2-inch drywall screw, and that is going to hold it together really well, and it's going to make so that whenever we push the crown molding pre-assembly into place, these joints are absolutely not going to separate, and it's also going to be very strong as I'm installing this. With these screws, you don't have to worry about it separating them. So pre-drilling so it doesn't split, and then 2-inch drywall screws works pretty well for this. Taking a look at how we do this whole process, we're just starting with a 1x6, and as always, sand everything with 120 grit, gets it nice and smooth. Then on the back side, you'll notice this line here, that is our 3/8 offset. So to get that line, you're just gonna use a double square, or you can even make a jig, but you'll run this along the edge there and get yourself that nice reveal. And that way, whenever we are popping these up into place, you can keep that nice even reveal and see exactly where that is because you've got a continuous pencil line the whole way. Now the other key advantage is whenever you're cutting these, the measurement we're using on our cut list, whenever we measure these, is the exact point along this pencil line. Now remember, none of these cuts are square. They're all off by about a 1/2 degree to a degree. So as we do that, it's very crucial that we're measuring from this exact point the whole way around, and that we're taking our measurements from the correct spot. So very important, pull all your measurements on this line, and whenever you take your measurements, you're measuring the exact opening of these boxes at that 1x6 intersection right there. So why is this 1/2 degree so important, and why do I keep harping on it? It's a part of the whole entire process that makes things easier, especially as we're trying to pop these boxes into place. Now you can imagine if I measure this to its exact measurement, and let's say my board has a little bit of a cup in it, or maybe I accidentally cut it a hair long, I'm not even gonna be able to get it up into the opening. It's gonna be a nightmare. But because these are tapered up a 1/2 degree, it pops in place effortlessly. The other thing it's gonna do is it's gonna make the crown molding installation go a lot better. If you're pre-assembling crown like I'm about to do, you'll see how easy the crown pops into place when everything is cut a 1/2 degree off. Right here, you'll notice as I was screwing this together, I didn't drive these screws all the way home. The reason I did that is because if you start with one screw and drive it all the way in, a lot of times it pulls the miter out of alignment and that throws off your measurement right here. So I put the screws in from all angles and that locks it in together, and now I'll finish driving them home. Again, you'll notice here one of the biggest advantages of screwing these miters together is you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with them as you're installing, and you don't have to worry about the joint coming apart. If you have to really beat on it with a hammer to get it into place, if one end falls a little bit whenever you're installing, it's not going to mess up the whole piece. So that's another key advantage of screwing those. It just makes it a lot easier to install. All right, at this point, we've got 3 boxes here ready to install. So this will complete this whole row. We'll try and pop them in place and see how it goes. Getting ready to cut the last box. Check out the measurements, exact same on both sides. That's when you know things are going right. Something I want you to notice here, I've got my saw at my 1 degree bevel for this center box, and it's tilted over at 45. Now in every cut, I don't have to be flipping this back and forth. I'd rather flip the board. So I'm gonna make this cut first, and then I'm gonna flip it over, slide it down, and I can pull my measurement, mark it, cut it this way, and then flip it again, make that cut, push it over, pull my measurement, mark it, cut it. So you can do that flip thing and save some time. All right, now a lot of times you can get a really nice thud whenever you put this center box in, and this is why we do that 1 degree. See how easy that pops into place right there? Then we're just gonna push it right up into place. Get that nice thud as it snaps up in there. And no hands, no big deal, nice pressure fit. That's the power of that 1/2 degree to 1 degree offcut and good measuring. It's gonna pop into place just like it grew there. Now we wanna just go around the perimeter, look for our pencil line with the 3/8 inch reveal line. Get that right where we want it. Tack this corner. Then we'll move over to the next corner. Right where we want it. Tack it. All right guys, so our beams are all done and it's time to install crown molding. I've actually got 1 row of crown molding installed already. So I'm gonna show you what I do to cut all my crown molding, and I've got this system that I've developed over the years. I have a lot of confidence in. On Instagram multiple times, I've cut all my crown boxes and installed them all with just a pressure fit without even any nails, just to demonstrate how accurate it is and how consistent it is in terms of trusting my measurements and trusting the pre-assembly. So I'm gonna show you what I do up close and personal so that you can get that kind of results in this video. We're up on the scaffolding, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to mark the bottom of the crown. So to do that, I use a projection block, and the first thing I do, I figure out what my crown projection is. In this case, it's 5 1/4 crown with a 3 3/4 inch projection. And what I like to do is take my block and take a 1/16 off of it. So instead of 3 3/4, I've got 3 11/16 here. So the first thing that we'll do is actually go around all of these corners, and I will mark the bottom of the crown in each corner. and that gives me a very precise point to measure to. Why is that so important? Keep in mind, again, we're not perfectly plumb all the way around here. Everything is tapering in. So if you're taking your measurement too low or too high, you're going to get an inaccurate measurement. So it's very important to take your measurement exactly where the bottom of that crown is. Here you can see as we work our way around these squares, you can see that pencil line indicating where the bottom of our crown molding will be, and that'll be the point that we'll measure from. You can probably see on these other boxes that I already cut and installed the pencil line right there on the bottom. Again, I like to take whatever I think my projection is and take a 1/16 off of it. That way the pencil line is mostly covered. Now, when I'm doing something like this and I need to make a cut list, I like to make a diagram. So as you can see here, I've got these 3 squares drawn out on my cut list. I also like to make sure, if I can, that I'm orienting my cut list the same way my saw is oriented, so that I can keep my mind visually oriented in the same direction and I'm not trying to flip around things in my head. So basically what that means is if I'm laying out my cut list like this and my saw is pointing that way, I'm gonna go ahead and write on here front door, which is that direction where the front door is, and I'm gonna start writing my measurements so that I can clip this onto my cut list holder and I'm visually looking in the same direction that my cut list is. That's gonna help reduce the risk of making miscuts, and that is something I would definitely recommend, just to give you an idea what it's going to look like. Now, to take accurate measurements on something like this, you want to make sure that your end of the tape is exactly positioned where it should be. Keep the tape measure as straight as possible, no twists or dips if at all possible. I'm going to pull it out and I want to push it really hard into this corner. Now, if you keep it on the same plane and try and push in, that tape has got some curve to it and it's kind of hard to accurately read it. What you want to do is tilt the tape measure. So rather than keeping it straight on like this, you want to tilt it so that one edge of the tape kind of digs into the corner a little bit, and then you can get a more accurate reading. So in this instance right here, I've got exactly 51 inches. When I'm measuring crown molding like this, I like to take 1/32 off. And the reason for that is I know that the way I've constructed this, there is no give. So if I make my crown measurement exact, or if heaven forbid I get it a little bit long, it's going to be an absolute nightmare to try to get it into place. But you'll find if you take 1/32 off, it pops right into place with a nice pressure fit. It'll even hold in place right there. But that way you can just push it in place and you don't have to beat on anything. So I find that works really well. Get your exact measurement and take 1/32 off. And the way I write down my measurements, and I do this for everything, whether it's baseboard or casing or anything, if I've got 51, I want to take a 32nd off and I want to record that, I'm going to record it as 50 and 15/16 strong. So I'm just going to write 50 and 15/16 and put a plus sign behind it. When I put that plus sign behind it, I know that means add a 32nd. It's a strong measurement. Okay, taking a look at our setup here, very efficient workflow area. Trim rack, we can pull the crown molding right off the rack onto our miter saw area here. As I said before, here's our cut list, oriented the same way as the cuts are up on the ceiling here. So I've got marked on my cut list, front door, which is up there, so I'm looking at it all the same way. That's going to reduce errors. And then of course, a good quality miter saw stand setup, cutting it nested, and the key to getting perfect miters with crown is trying to cut it as consistently as possible in the nested position. So we'll cut all those pieces. We'll use our cut list numbers. As you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We'll write those numbers on the back and stack our pieces on the assembly table. and then again use our cut list to make sure we're assembling them all in the correct order. Alrighty, and as you see here, got some nice stitched up, pre-assembled crown boxes. They're all numbered, so you just want to make sure you're assembling them in the correct order, but watch how easily these pop into place now. Now you'll see here, I call these pressure fits because you can pop them right into place and they'll stay up without any nails or anything like that. Just slide it right on up there. So no nails, just move right on to the next one. Make sure you've got the correct number on the correct side. There's another one. Correct number. So you see how easy these are just to push up? That's because of that bevel. It just makes it so simple to install crown. So there we go, piece of cake. All right, let's talk about crown pre-assembly. I've got 12 pieces of crown here, pre-cut, enough for 3 boxes. I've got my cut list right here, and I've got it laid down right on the table, same orientation as these boxes will be going into the ceiling. The reason that is important is because all the way around this list, I've got numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. I need to make sure that as I'm putting these pieces of crown together that I don't get the pieces reversed. That can happen and it's super annoying when it does. So we want to be very careful of that. We will be assembling our crown with a technique called stitching. I don't know if that's actually a technique or not, but that is what it looks like. It looks like you're kind of sewing the backside of the crown together. Going to be using a 22 gauge stapler. I believe the width is 3/8 of an inch, and then the leg length on these staples is only 1/4 inch, very short leg length, but all you need is to stitch the backside of that crown together, hold it in place long enough for you to get it up into the box. I've done this for years and years now. It works absolutely fantastic. It's my favorite technique for pre-assembling crown into coffered ceiling boxes. Some of you may even remember years ago I demonstrated this technique and actually pressure fit, I think it was like 9 boxes into a coffered ceiling just to demonstrate this technique. One of them did end up falling down. I thought about doing that on this ceiling, but then I decided, no, I'm not gonna push my luck. We'll just use common sense and use my head. And that's just always a good strategy because something can go wrong as you're cutting crown. Tape measure could get bent. One thing that actually almost happened over here was as I was cutting crown after the first batch, I had a couple miters that were just not fitting quite right as I pre-assembled over here. Well, my miter saw wings can actually move if they get bumped a little hard or something, which threw my crown fence back a little bit. So it was off like 1/8 over here and 1/4 inch over here. If I had cut an entire ceiling like that, that would have been a very bad deal. So it's great to pre-assemble, but you know, sometimes within reason is a good strategy also. So moral of the story is, if you want to cut a whole ceiling of crown and pre-assemble it to show off for Instagram once in a while, that's fine and dandy. But as a general everyday practice, It's nice to kind of do like 3 boxes at a time. That way, in case something is not quite right, you accidentally forget to put your bevel from 1 degree back to 0, or your crown fence is off, or who knows what else it could be. Just in case something like that's going on, that way you don't cut all of the crown and then have a situation on your hands. Getting started here, I do have the stacks in 4, so I'm keeping all of my boxes separate, but we'll go ahead and start the first box. I'm looking at my cut list. I've got 12. 12 is on the right side, so I'm going to put that over here. Then it's just going to work backwards around here. So let's start right here on this corner, and let me show you how this works. By the way, something you're going to see, and this might be something that some of you might not know about, a lot of times on crown molding, if you have a profile that is symmetrical, it goes through the molding machine at the mill, and there is a top and bottom to it, and you want to keep that orientation the same, because if you flip it around and you're trying to put things together, it can be a little bit different. So they actually help you out, and on the back side of your crown, most of the time you'll have a groove on one side of the back. So this is going to be my top, or whatever. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's the top, but anyways, I make sure whenever I'm cutting all this crown, this groove, whenever I set it on the saw, I can feel it with my fingers right here as I put it into place. And you want to do that to make sure that you're always cutting the crown in the same orientation, because if you flip it and flop it, it might not line up correctly, and that can be a big deal if you're trying to do outside corners and stuff like that. So part of the reason that I wanted to mention to you about this groove is because it's my favorite spot to put my first staple. So what you want to do is make sure this corner is perfectly aligned so that it comes to a nice crisp intersection there, because that is your length. But then now we've got this nice ridge right here, and I like to put a staple right there first, and that's going to kind of draw it together there on the bottom. Do 2 or 3 here, and now we'll move back up to the top, and this is the flat area. You want to look at this and see if it's open or closed too much. We want to get it tight all the way so that it is at a 90-degree angle right here, as close as we can. And then staple that top together. So now that is tied together nicely. It's not going to come apart, and we'll work our way the rest of the way down. So that's called stitching. Let's move to the next one. Now I can't get to the back side very easily because I'm limited on space here. So I'll go ahead and just flip this around. And same thing again. I realize that for a lot of you, I'm committing a sin by not gluing this, but the reality is it's never going to move. I've only got about 4 feet of length. Everything is locked in up there, up top, glued and screwed together, and it's paint grade, so the seams are going to get caulked. I prefer just not to have to mess with the glue squeeze out. I think it just makes it uglier and causes more of a pain than it's worth on these profiles. So once you've got this assembled, it's not bulletproof by any means, but you can carry it around, move it around, and it's tied together well enough to get into place really easily, and just makes for some nice miters. All right, got the crown boxes set up here, last 3, ready to put them up, see if we can get 3 nice pressure fits again. Just pop them in and nail them off, and we're all done. All right, these guys are literally just hanging there, no nails, no nothing, hanging in place, just a nice tight fit with a little bit of pressure. That's what we want. Alrighty, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this Coffered Ceiling Series. I'm all wrapped up and everything came together really well. This isn't one of those ceilings that you take a picture of from 20 foot back and there's gaps all over the place. Everything is very, very tight, very nice miters, rock solid ceiling. So this is a system that I've kind of tweaked over the years, works great for me and gives a really good finished product. So hope you guys have found the videos helpful. Give me some feedback, let me know what you think. I know this is probably different than a lot of you are used to seeing, whereas most guys are just running cleats with more of a traditional style ceiling. But whenever we have this lower board continuous with no offsets, this is how I like to build it. But I'll definitely build it different if I've got through beams and then the other beams are bumped up. But for this style, this is my method and I like it. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next video.